Previously on Higurashi when they Cry Kai, Chapter 8.
それはですね。
あの人たちは警察なんですか？とてもそうには見えません。大体あなた方は何者なんですか？厚生省の人間だなんて私は今更信じませんよ。
Dr. Irie seems taken aback by my intensity. It can't even answer properly. They're still hiding a lot more from us. That tells me the research they're working on with Rika isn't anything proper.
とにかく私はリカの保護者です。リカはまだまだ子供です。あの子が何をどう返事しようとも今後は一切研究を手伝わせるつもりはありません。
このままだと女王感染者の協力が受けられなくなるばかりか、騒ぎ立てる母親によって研究所の所在が暴かれる危険性もある。山犬で何か手は打てる？
I asked Okanogi rather directly. I'm not really expecting an answer. But...
了解しました。山犬で対応します。お時間をいただければきれいにやりますよ。
I'm going to get rid of them. Rika's parents, that is. The Queen Carrier is my guinea pig. A guinea pig doesn't need parents. That's right. It's almost time for the Watanagashi Festival. If they die on that day, people will call it the curse of Oyashiro-sama. That murder case from 2 years ago and the accident from last year are 2 separate incidents. Yet, because they happened on the day of Watanagashi, they're being called the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Then, if her parents' deaths occur on this year's Watanagashi, it'll be Oyashiro-sama's curse 3 years in a row. The miracle of Oyashiro-sama. Also, the curse. I'm going to create them. Because between the time the priest left the festival and the time I arrived at the clinic, during those 20 minutes, this year's curse had taken place. The priest's condition changed for the worse right after he arrived at the clinic. He died. The autopsy results say it was heart failure, but how can I accept that? I don't think the priest was having health problems, and everyone was taken by surprise by this sudden event. Moreover, the wife of the priest disappeared too. According to the clinic staff, she was with him right after he died, but she's nowhere to be seen now. Of course, she's not at home either. I'm given the medication daily, and I keep losing all my senses. So, when the medicine wore off by accident, I realized I should never take it again. That's right. This isn't medicine that will heal me. It's just going to kill me slowly. If I continue to take this medicine, I probably wouldn't be able to tell if I was dead or alive, and I would end up losing myself forever. I'll keep looking up at the ceiling without any emotions and keep watching the clock tick forever. It apologized. It kept apologizing. Why is it apologizing? You apologize when you're at fault. So this thing I just met for the first time was admitting to wronging me. That means I'm not at fault. It's at fault, not me. The filthy me has drifted away, so that the me that remains is no longer Reina Ryugu. If I'm not Reina, then who am I? If I'm without filth, without all the icky things, who am I? A name vaguely appeared in my head. My new name that only removes one of the letters from Reina, but I think it's a cute name. All the icky things are erased and forgiven with the removal of that one letter. So my name is no longer Reina. My name is.
実際に引っ越してくる人があるかはわからないけど、その人にそこまでを期待しちゃうのは気の毒じゃない？
レナちゃんが一人転校してきてもミオンは変わるね。誰が引っ越してきてもきっと村は変わる。願わくばそれが元気な若者で、わしら年寄り連中が安心して村を任せられるくらい大暴れしてくれよると嬉しいんだが、それこそ年寄り連中がもうやっとれんね、あの世に退散するわいうくらいにな。
ならさ、あれだ、部活動に加わったっていうのはどう？
部活？
うん、部活ってことにして学校で遊んでから帰ればいいじゃん。だって学校から帰らないでそのまま遊んでる男の子だって大勢いるんだしね。全然問題ないよ。
でも服を汚すとまたおばさんに。
ならさ、アウトドアじゃなくてインドア中心にすればいいわけよ。それなら服も汚れないしね。
And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Higurashi no Kai Chapter 8. I think we all know the drill by now, so let's get right into it, shall we? Now, where am I going to start today? No, that... Do we have the 4th year curse by now? No, we don't. I think I should probably try looking at this. Footsteps in the 4th year. My harsh and brutal days are still continuing without end. The situation between my aunt and Satoko remains the same. My aunt yells at Satoko for no reason every night. Although Satoko cries, she still talks back to her. So my aunt's yelling goes on and on forever. Satoko's crying goes on and on too. When Satoko sees me, she grabs onto me. She hides behind my back and tries to ignore my aunt's yelling. She always comes to seek my help. Satoko doesn't open up to anyone but me. So if I don't protect her, she'll be devastated. That security is something our parents didn't grant to Satoko. I have to be the one to provide it. But every day, day after day, every time Satoko cries, every day, day after day, Satoko grabbed onto me while crying yesterday. I patted her head, but along with pity, a different emotion came to me. I wanted to grasp her head and smash her against the wall. An unbelievably devilish and awful emotion. No. I can't think that. No, it's not that I can't think it. I just can't acknowledge that feeling. Since that day, there has been someone else inside of me. That someone is trying to eat me up from the inside and switch places with me. When Satoko begs for my help while crying, that person tries to make me spill out some awful and hateful words that are sure to damage Satoko forever. Leave me alone. Don't grab onto me. Go away! No, I can't! To prevent him from taking over my body, I clenched my stomach and drove him out. I managed to do that. But that wasn't it. That person is coming after me, trying to get back inside of me. I won't let such a scary thing get back inside of me. He knows there's no room to slip into my heart as long as I keep it held shut like this. So he stops trying, and instead is following right behind me. He's waiting for me to let my guard down. When I walk, he walks right behind me. He's breathing down my neck. He follows me everywhere, and when I lie down, he stares down at me. He's waiting for the right moment to jump back inside of me so he can hurt Satoko. It's been so hot lately. Maybe the heat is getting to me. That's why I think things like this. I'm the only family Satoko has. So I have to protect her from my aunt for the rest of my life. That's my eternal duty. The rest of my life? Forever? Do I really have to do that forever? If only Satoko. But I'm her only family. But it's because of my aunt. But it's because of the villagers, too. It's almost Watanagashi. Some irresponsible people are saying that the curse will once again fall upon Hinamizawa. They're also saying it'll fall upon me and Satoko for sure. Maybe it's just my imagination, but lately the villagers expecting it are giving me especially sharp looks. I feel like I'll be killed on the day of Watanagashi. Of course, there is no reason why I would be killed. And it's just my imagination. Pat, 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 pat. Don't come on inside of me. Satoko is my only sister in my family, so don't tell me those awful things. Pat, 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 stop. Stop! Don't come this way. Don't come this way! Footsteps came up right behind me, and the hand touched me on the shoulder. It's just Reina.
レナか。
大丈夫かな
Not really, but thanks for asking.
かな
I must have been acting weird. Reina looked worried. Her name is Reina Ryugu. She just moved here and transferred to my school. Nobody remembers her, but supposedly she lived here in Hinamizawa a long time ago. In fact, she hardly remembers anything about Hinamizawa either. Since Mion is the only other classmate who is my age, I'm glad she's my friend. She usually carries on happily alongside Mion, but occasionally she shows more feminine consideration.
具合悪いの保健室で休んだ方がいいんじゃないかなかな
ありがとう。大丈夫だよ。僕、そんなにも具合が悪そうだったかい
Sick in the head, perhaps?
うん
Her immediate answer made me realize I wasn't myself.
さとこちゃんのことで心配事
いや、
Well, that's part of it.
そういうわけじゃないんだよ。
She knows that my problem isn't physical, but a mental one. This is just something I think to myself, but even though Reina seems like a very easygoing person, maybe she's more perceptive than she appears.
レナは転校してきたばかりだから頼りないかもしれないけど話を聞くことはできるからねきっと聞いてあげるだけでも少しは心が軽くなると思うから
Although she just transferred, she already knows quite a bit about me and my sister, and also about the situation with the villagers. But talking about it won't solve anything. Actually, if I talk about it, I feel like I'd be admitting to my weakness, which might give that person a chance to get inside of me again.
さっき声をかけたらすごく驚いたでしょそんなにも考え事をしてるならきっと辛い悩みなんだろうなって って思って。はあ。
それはなぜか最近誰かにずっと後をつけられているような錯覚がしてね。ひたひたペタペタ。だからそれかと思ってでごめん。僕は一体何を言ってるんだか。
足音ついてくるの？
え？
私その足音知ってる。
It really is a shame that Hanyu's attempts just merely to keep an eye on people ends up making things worse for some certain situations. I mean, it helped Reina for sure in her case, but with her Satoshi, well, we already know how that case turned out. If only she could walk more quietly. So we got footsteps. Looking around. Do I have enough for this yet? Yup.
そうですか。いえいえ、届けなんていりません。サトシ君は我がひなみ沢ファイターズの頼もしい選手なんですからね。席はちゃんと開けてあります。いつでも戻ってきていいんですからね。
わかりません。当分は戻ってこれないと思うので、一度退部にしてもらった方がいいと思いまして。
Satoshi-kun says he wants to quit the Hinamizawa fighters. I know very well Satoshi-kun Satoko-chan's situation, so I was expecting that he might say this. The relationship between Satoko-chan and her aunt has gotten worse, to the point that it can be considered abuse. When someone from the Child Consultation Center came, of course her aunt behaved herself. Then immediately after, her harassment turned even more vicious. According to the neighbors, the aunt's scolding Satoko-chan's crying can be heard nightly, and sometimes it goes on past midnight. Satoko-chan's weekly physical checkup results are slowly growing worse, and we're trying to keep her stable by increasing her medication. But unless her relationship with her aunt improves, she's sure to go terminal and sink into madness. Although she isn't the type to become deranged, even at the terminal stage. She's a type who holds everything in, harboring her insanity inside. Just like she pushed her parents off the cliff 2 years ago, Satoko-chan may kill her aunt. Thanks to the mountain dogs, the incident was resolved as an accident, and Ushi stepped aside, although he is still suspicious. If something like that happens again around Satoko-chan, he's sure to investigate her mercilessly. I can't do anything more about Satoko-chan's environment changing for the worse. So I'm not surprised to hear that Satoshi-kun wants to quit the baseball team, so he can be with his sister more.
実は僕、アルバイトを始めるんです。
Okay, we definitely got your part-time job now.
それで、あまり野球に出られなくて。
アルバイトですか。何か買いたいものでもあるんですか？
はい。もうすぐ、サトコの誕生日なんです。サトコが欲しがっているぬいぐるみがあるので、それをプレゼントしてやりたいと思いまして。
That's right. I remember the birth date on her insurance card. I think it's June 24th. Right after the Watanagashi festival.
そうですか。 サトシ君は本当に妹思いのお兄さんですね。それはきっとサトコちゃんも喜んでくれるでしょう。
喜んでくれると嬉しいです。
I can tell Satoshi-kun is also stressed out. To him, seeing Satoko-chan being harassed is the same thing as being harassed himself. His stress can be released through moderate exercise, such as with sports, and also with plenty of rest. If Satoko-chan is being yelled at nightly, then it's easy to figure out that Satoshi-kun isn't getting enough sleep either. I don't know what kind of job he's starting, but I don't think he'll be able to vent his stress on it. In fact, I don't like the idea of Satoshi-kun taking a part-time job, because he's already so worn out in every way. I asked him if he wanted me to help him pay for the present, but of course, he declined the offer. It's a present from him, so he wants to earn the money himself. He's taking this part-time job only to earn enough money to buy Satoko-chan's present, so it'll be a temporary thing. If it's for a short period of time, maybe it won't be that bad. While I want him to stop from working because I don't want him to get even more stressed, since he says Satoko-chan's birthday is near, I don't think I can stop him. Satoshi-kun is determined. If I say any more, I may lose his trust. So I'll have to accept his leave of absence.
そうだ、監督、バットを一本借りていってもいいですか？
And it begins. I completely misunderstood his words. Later, I found out he carried around that bat to protect himself, and realized that, even then, he was already showing some dangerous symptoms. He believed there would be a fourth mysterious death this year, and that he would be the victim. He became obsessed with the idea that someone was after his life. That is a symptom of Hinamizawa Syndrome's terminal stage. But although I was involved so deeply with the syndrome, I was careless.
バットですか？はて、何に使うんですか？
Satoshi-kun had his own bat, so he should have asked if he could take it home, but instead he asked if he could borrow it. When I think about it now, he said it that way to lighten his guilty conscience. But how could I have known then?
いえ、野球にはそんなに来れなくなりますけど、でもきっと一人で素振りの練習をするくらいの時間は取れると思うので。
I think my aunt's head would make for a very adequate replacement for a baseball.
それはいいですね。そういうことならぜひ持って行ってください。素振りをするときは十分周りを確認して危険がないよう注意してからやってくださいね。ご近所迷惑でなければタイヤを吊るしてそれを打つのもいい練習になるでしょう。
Swinging a bat can release stress, so letting him take his bat home will help. That's what I thought. But that was a huge mistake. You think? I realized it only when things were already past the point of no return. I'm gonna definitely find out what happened to Satoshi this episode, aren't I? One of the biggest questions I've been wanting an answer for the longest time now. The death of Satoshi's aunt. A bat to beat her to death is required. We were prepared to respond quickly this year. That was why we were able to start the investigation immediately by securing the crime scene. The victim is the wife of the younger brother of the Hojo couple, so she's an extremely suitable target for the 4 Fears curse of Orishiro-sama. She had a horrible reputation among the locals. After the incident, everyone said she deserved to be cursed. I have a general idea of who the culprit must be. It's probably Satoshi Hojo, that innocent-looking kid. There's even a motive. The deceased abused his sister relentlessly, so this would be in revenge for that. Also, when he attended the inspection of the crime scene, he was rather frantic, yet also far too composed, as if he was totally unrelated to the incident. My intuition from many years of police work tells me that 8 or 9 times out of 10, someone who acts like that is the perp. I have no concrete proof, but if I question him and shake him up a bit, I have a feeling he'll confess.
これだけ仏をめった打ちにしていれば、星も返り血を少なからず浴びたものと思います。そいつが見つけられれば決め手になりそうですね。
まあよっぽどの間抜けでなけりゃ処分してるでしょうがね。犯行を認めた後に捨てたと称する場所から発見できれば、検察も納得してくれるでしょう。
This was pretty insignificant as a standalone case. A confession from Satoshi Hojo would end it. Everyone except me must believe that. But if I look at it as part of a series of mysterious deaths, it won't be so easy. Either the 3 families of the village, or the Sonozaki family alone, is directly involved in this. If they are the ones pulling the strings, they must have instigated Satoshi Hojo into committing this crime. If so, Satoshi Hojo is someone who knows way too much about them. The Sonozaki family's actions must remain hidden. If he could connect them to the crime, would they let him run around freely? Satoshi Hojo is a loving brother who cares very much for his sister, and they set him up to kill his aunt as the 4 Fears curse. After that, they will eliminate the one person who can connect them to the crime. Satoshi Hojo is not just a simple criminal. He was set up. Oh, I didn't think you had quite this sympathetic an outlook on Satoshi. And after that, my suspicions were confirmed, for he abruptly vanished. He disappeared in such a puzzling way. He didn't run because he was afraid that his crime had come to light. Another culprit came into the picture. He was already arrested for a different crime, and furthermore, he died while in prison. He confessed information only the culprit himself would have known. Therefore, he must be the culprit. In all due likelihood, I'd say he's a mountain dog. But as he's already dead, the investigation was closed. Then Satoshi Hojo disappeared a few days after the festival. It's obvious someone doesn't want Satoshi Hojo to be connected to this incident. My boss put pressure on me to close the investigation and to file Satoshi Hojo's disappearance as a separate incident. He even handed the case over to a different section. The way this case is closing so rapidly greatly resembles the same trick used 2 years ago with the Hojo couple's accident. There's no doubt it's the work of someone who can put pressure on the police. As it happens, the Sonozaki family is the only one who can actually exact influence on the police department here in Hinamizawa. They may think their trails are covered, but this points towards them more clearly than anything. According to my informant, Oryu Sonozaki mentioned the 4 Fears curse at the family meeting, and hinted that she was the one behind it all. Hinting isn't strong enough evidence, but there is no mistaking that Oryu Sonozaki is the one pulling the strings. I know they're the ones who did it in the old man, but I just can't grab them! Well, the reason you can't grab them is because you're groping for the wrong perps. The principal offender is still on the loose, but I'm sure he's being sheltered somewhere by the Sonozaki family. I have to locate him and find that missing right arm. I'll return the arm to his grave and make the principal offender and the masterminds both bow down before it. However, just like how Satoshi-kun disappeared, it's possible the principal offender has already been eliminated. I bet he's already been killed and buried somewhere nobody can find. If that's the case, then that's fine. I'll make the old bag who ordered someone to kill the old man slam her forehead on the ground before his grave. This, I swear. After the 4th year's curse, people are already saying something will happen again next year. Even with all my preparations, I couldn't prevent the incident from happening this time. It's too late if something happens. I must keep my eyes on the core of the village before something takes place. There's a reason why I have to get to the bottom of this by next year. Because I'm retiring. My mother has been wanting to go back to her hometown in Hokkaido, and for a long time she's been asking me to move there when I retire. I feel that's the least I can do for her, so I agreed to move to Hokkaido when I retire. So next year is my last chance to avenge the old man's death. It happened 4 years in a row, so more than likely there will be a 5th curse too. As a result of the series of mysterious deaths, the village has been tightly knit together since the damn protests. They were told that betrayers will be punished in the name of the curse. To the masterminds, that's enough reason to continue with the series of mysterious deaths. According to rumors, this year's victim, the aunt, was cursed because she didn't participate in the Watanagashi festival. So there are villagers who believe that if they don't participate in next year's Watanagashi, they'll be cursed. There'll be a huge festival next year for sure. Something will happen. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, also known as the Curse of Orishiro-sama. I will avenge the old man. I definitely will. Well, if you're lucky, you'll live long enough to avenge him, while also learning the real truth behind what's been going on in this village. The 4th sacrifice. The village was in an uproar. Because the 4th mysterious death in a row, which everyone believed would happen, actually did. Satoko-chan's aunt was killed. All the villagers feel rather satisfied about this incident, saying the curse finally fell on her for being a local troublemaker. But I know the truth. When I saw the beaten-up body at the crime scene, I knew Satoshi-kun was responsible for it. Her abuse towards Satoko-chan was getting worse and worse. Satoshi-kun wanted to protect her, so he brought home a baseball bat. All the signs were there, so I didn't even need to hear it from Satoshi-kun. Yet I couldn't avoid questioning myself. I felt bad for the Hojo siblings, who had no one on their side, so I tried to be their ally. In the end, I failed to be any help to them. The phone rang. It was Satoshi-kun. He's never called me before. What happened? Does he want me to help him? If so, I will. I truly feel that way.
監督ですか。お仕事中にすみませんでした。
いえいえ、 気になさらないでください。どうかなさいましたか？
車を持っている人が
車ですか？ええ、ありますよ。
実は今沖宮のおもちゃ屋さんの前にいるんです。ミオンのおじさんのおもちゃ屋じゃなくて、もう一軒の歯医者さんの近くにあるおもちゃ屋さんの方です。
This is right before he vanished.
ああ、わかりますわかります。
それでさとこの誕生日プレゼントのぬいぐるみを変えたんですけど、大きくって自転車に積めないんです。
大きくって自転サトシ君、あなたどれだけ大きなぬいぐるみを買ったんですか？
As big as your head, good doc. I guess he didn't think about it and went to the toy store on his bicycle. Now he's stuck. That's so typical of him. I can't help but smile warmly. In other words, he can't carry both the bicycle and the teddy bear, so he wants me to come pick him up. I told him I'd be right over and head to the toy store in Okinomiya. When I got there, I found that the teddy bear he bought is a lot bigger than I imagined.
これは大きいですね。確かにこれじゃ自転車は無理でしょう。
The teddy bear is so big that Satoshi-kun can hardly wrap his arms around it. If he puts it on his lap in the passenger seat, he won't be able to see anything. We load the bicycle in the back seat and stuff the teddy bear in the trunk.
しかしこれだけの大きなぬいぐるみともなると高かったでしょう。
ええ、まあそこそこに。
At first, I thought he was sweating because of the heat. But he's acting oddly. As if he has a high fever and his consciousness is coming and going.
どうしましたか？具合でも悪いんですか？
多分、いえ、風邪です。
それはよくありませんね。診療所に寄っていきませんか？具合を見てあげましょう。
ありがとうございます。
When he called earlier, he didn't sound this way. He's going terminal, isn't he? Did he become ill all of a sudden?
どうぞ、リクライニングを倒して楽に。冷房が強すぎませんか？大丈夫ですか？
His face is turning pale. I can tell he has a high fever. Satoshi-kun is pushing himself to buy this teddy bear. A teddy bear this size can't be that cheap. For him to earn enough money in such a short period of time, he must have worked hard and long hours. Maybe he felt relieved now that he got the teddy bear he had wanted to buy. It's not unusual for a person to collapse after reaching his big goal.
しかし、よく頑張りましたね。こんなにも大きなぬいぐるみを。さとこちゃん、きっと喜ぶと思いますよ。
喜んで欲しいです。
喜びますよ。私が保証しちゃいます。
もうおばさんもいない。おじさんも帰ってこない。もうこれで貞子をいじめる人はいないんですよね。
そうですね。もう貞子ちゃんをいじめる人はいません。だからこれからはゆっくりと過ごしていいんです。
おばさんはいないんですよね。死んだんですもんね。
はい、確かに死にました。検視には私も立ち会っています。間違いありませんよ。だからもう二度と 里子ちゃんをいじめたりはしません。
本当におばさんが死んでるのは？
はい、間違いなく。
じゃあたまに通りすがるおばさんにそっくりな人がいても、それはおばさんじゃないんですよね。おばさんが実は生きてて退院してきたとか、そういうんじゃないんですよね。
ええ、そんなことはありえません。二度と私たちの前に現れることはありませんよ。
じゃああの人、あれもよく似てるけどおばさんじゃないんですよね。ですよね。
Satoshi-kun pointed at the oncoming car in fear. Of course, the car passed by so quickly that I couldn't see her face. But no matter how much she looks like her, it's impossible for her to be alive.
ほら、あの人もあんなにそっくりでもおばさんじゃないんですか？だって僕を見ましたよ。
落ち着いてください、サトシ君。おばさんは完全に死にました。だからどんなに似ていてもそれはおばさんではありません。
似てる。いや、違う。本当のおばさんなんだ。おばさんがまだあんなに殺したのに、あんなに殴ったのに、なんで
I can only try to stay calm and drive. Satoshi-kun is losing his cool. He's delusional. He's seen his aunt coming back from the dead. Then I finally realize Satoshi-kun is displaying symptoms of the terminal stage. I need to examine him once I get to the clinic. It's different from Satoko-chan's case. We already have the cure. We can treat Satoshi-kun. If I talk to the mountain dogs, they'll take care of the murder of his aunt. So I can both save him from going terminal and give him back his peaceful days with Satoko-chan. He was deranged until just a minute ago, but now he's gone quiet. He didn't fall asleep. I must get to the clinic while Satoshi-kun remains in this calm state. There's no guarantee that he won't attack me while I'm driving. As if he knows what is going through my mind, Satoshi-kun spoke to me quietly.
監督、これってやっぱりお社様のたたりなんでしょうか？
たたりなんかありません。どうか気を強く持ってください。
里子、ごめん。ぬいぐるみを買う直前まで僕はそのお金でどこか遠くに逃げてしまおうって思ってたんだ。だからそんな僕をお社様は許さなかったんだ。だからそんな僕をお社様は許さなかったんだ。僕は兄失格なんだ。僕は
無理に喋らなくていいですよ。まぶたを閉じて休んでいてください。すぐに診療所に着きますからね。そうしたら具合のすぐ良くなる薬をあげますからね。
僕の血の中にもウジ虫が湧いてるのかな。かゆい。
書かないで。喉をかいてはいけません。
We arrived at the back door to the clinic. I slammed the brakes and stopped the car. Satoshi-kun has already started to claw at his throat. I can't stop him by myself. I asked for some help through the intercom. Some staff members came out immediately. Maybe Satoshi-kun was surprised to see so many people at once, because he started to resist. I don't even need to run tests. He's at level 5. He's reached the terminal stage, and his thoughts must be filled with delusions. Maybe he thinks that the staff members want to kill him. The staff members pinned his arms and legs down and gave him a shot to put him to sleep.
監督、助けて。
大丈夫ですよ。すぐに治療しますから、しばらくの間楽にしていてください。
どっか。里子。願い。
Please take care of Satoko. After saying those words, he fell unconscious.
あらあら。騒がしいと思ったら、これはな。
サトシ君が急性発症したようです。彼の日頃のストレスを考えれば、いつ発症してもおかしくなかったでしょう。いや、ぬいぐるみを買うまで自制心でそれをずっと抑え続けてきたに違いありません。
なんだか毎年綿流しになると生きた検体が手に入りますわね。
Yeah, it's very interesting. A very funny coincidence.
これもお社様のたたりのおかげなのかしら。
I don't have time to listen to her nonsense. I knew the clinic had to have something to do with his disappearance. But I didn't think that Eerie himself came and picked him up. So now that we can basically confirm that Satoshi reached level 5, the terminal stage, he's probably dead. Maybe he was dissected or something for research. Unless that cure managed to work on him, in which case, if it did, why was he never returned? Big teddy bear is required. She needs moral support. I think we already got half for that. Preview of lots for sale. Let's try this. I don't know what to do. Me too! My name is Ichiro Maibara, and I am hopelessly lost. Me too! I came to Hinamizawa on a tour to find a lot for a vacation home. When the realtor finished explaining some details, he told us to take a walk until the departure time. Such a beautiful scenery and fresh air. I let my gut and senses guide me, and here I am. Where am I? I still have a little time before the departure, but I'm completely lost. This is basically the middle of nowhere, but people actually do live here. If I keep walking, I should run into somebody. Then I can ask for directions. Don't worry. The only thing I need to keep in mind is the departure time for the bullet train. But the more time passes, the more I start to think I was being too optimistic about running into somebody. Because I can't find anybody at all. Maybe I'm walking farther and farther away from where people are, in which case I'm in serious trouble. So upon hearing someone's voice, I feel immensely relieved. Sounds like little girls are playing nearby. If it's a place where little kids can play, it must be a safe village. I follow those voices. Here's a place I've never seen before. Upon rounding wild pampas grass, I see a beautiful field. 2 girls are playing there. They're dancing the field filled with blooming wildflowers. What I'm seeing is more beautiful than all of the great works of art I've ever seen put together. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but this looks holier than any religious painting. Why is it that seeing innocent girls dance around like this makes people feel this way? It's probably because we're sinners. You can't live with pleasure and glory alone. We sin, even as we live. That's why we feel awed by the sight of innocence. It reminds us of the time when we were pure. We grow up naturally, and we lose innocence as we do. And we admire and adore the children who symbolize that which we've lost. Me?
とかなんとか小難しいことを言いながら変な不審者が僕たちをじっと見ていますのです。
Well, philosophy certainly can be weird at times, so you're not exactly wrong.
はあ。
Wait a minute. You can see Hanyu?
リカ、あれは不審者ではありませんのです。
Actually, she looks the exact opposite of transparent right now. She's completely solid. What the fuck is going on? Huh? Ah! Sorry. I'm not suspicious.
とか言いながら僕の美しさから目が離せないのです。
You pervert.
ニパ
No, I'm not. Don't turn me in. I really wasn't staring. I was using this mirror to fix my hair.
ー。何言ってるかわかんないのですが、とっても面白いことを言っている気がしますのです。なんというか、血は争えないという気がしますです。
The girls teased me for a while, and when they got tired of doing that, they went back to dancing around. Realizing that whatever I said would backfire, I decided to leave them alone and sat down to watch them play. I just remembered something. I think I vaguely recall a scene earlier in one of the earlier chapters where Keiichi's dad witnessed 2 girls playing in a field, so this has got to be that same scene, right? I wonder how old they are. They seem rather young, but maybe they could be close to Keiichi's age. You wish. If we move here, Keiichi might meet them at school. If you would see them at school, then they were girls that lived here. If all the children in Hinamizawa are like them, then even if living a rural life may have some challenges, there's a good reason for us to move here. We're not very good parents. We didn't understand what Keiichi was going through, and left him alone until the very end. According to the parenting book I bought, the first few problems are calls for help. It doesn't matter what the action itself is, but the fact that those actions are occurring is a primitive appeal from the child seeking communication. Humans can speak, and that's one of the reasons why we don't notice such signs. We can only hear words through our ears, and we can't sense the signs coming from our son's heart. Keiichi probably thinks it's all his fault. Of course, he's not absent of blame. Humans aren't dogs or cats. We should know what's right and what's wrong. But it's our faults too, as his parents. To let him think that he had to go that far for us to be able to understand him is really pathetic and disappointing of us. If we understood him and hadn't cornered him, Keiichi wouldn't have done that. So the incidents weren't only Keiichi's fault. Everyone in the Maebara family was to blame. I want to explain that to him, but he's still too young and hot-headed to be able to understand. Right now, the guilt he's feeling is basically crushing him under its weight. He doesn't even have the will to live. My wife is the same. She's blaming herself for forcing him to study for better grades. She thinks that's why the incidents took place. And I'm no different. I'm blaming myself for not getting involved in my son's education. I think that's why the incidents took place. The cross will be forever on our shoulders, even after the injured child accepts our apologies. Yet our cold society would tell us to die under the weight of that cross. Even so, we have to live. We have to accept our sins and carry our burdens on our shoulders. Maybe we can start a new life here in this village. I thought about all that as I watched the girls dance. Keiichi needs friends like them. Friends like those girls who will offer him so much more than the friends who only talked about cram schools and exam results. The girls are playing near a sign that doesn't fit into this open field. It's a sign about lots for sale, and the name of the realtor who brought me here for the tour is written on it. Does that mean we can live, even in this beautiful area, if we want to? One of the girls spoke as if reading my mind.
ここはいい村なのですよ。きっと都会にはなかったものがあるのです。
That's a good enough sales pitch for me. Sign me up. Yeah, that's right. I think so too.
でもこの村にないものをきっと都会のあなたが持ってきてくれる気がするのです。
For example, the biggest loudmouth this village has ever seen. Do we have anything?
ありますのですよ。ああ。僕たちはこの村で何百年間もこうしています。
You know, I think that's the most enthusiastic "ow ow" I've heard from Hanyu this whole time.
そこには誰も訪れず。
I hate that it
何
still
も起こりませんです。
makes her sound like a small dog to me, though.
だから何も起きないし何も変えられない。
Isn't that what's good about this place?
何かを変わりたいと思うからこの村に来たのじゃないのですか？
Yeah, you're right about that.
僕たちも新しい人を迎えたい。それは例えるなら水の流れ出ぬ沼の堰を破るようなもの。水は出入りがあるからこそ清水となる。確かにこの村は明治のついこの間まで沼の名前がついた村でしたのです。でもそれが変わりひなみ沢という地名に変わりましたのです。
I feel like there's a Shrek joke I could throw in here somewhere, but I'm not sure what.
沼の水は流れずよどむ。でも沢の水はよどまない。それにね、あなたたちが教えてくれるのよ。堰は破れるものだ。破るものだってね。
Are they playing riddles with me? I have no idea what they're trying to say. But there's one thing I know. The villagers are waiting for new people to come here, and they want to build a future with those newcomers. I looked at the sign behind the girls one more time, so that I'd remember this place. Well, if it's any consolation to you, good sir, just by being near the Queen Carrier and breathing in the same air that she's breathing, you're already now her new worker bee. So get used to wanting to be near her.
引っ越してくるのを待っていますですよ。苗原。
ああ、いたいた。 お客さん、こんな遠くまで行ったらダメですよ。
A raspy voice from the distance ended this innocent moment. It's the realtor. I guess he's been looking for me because I didn't return. Sorry about that. I got lost. I apologized while scratching my head. I turned around to look for the girls, but they weren't there anymore. Don't you pull a dark night on me. I wonder, can a certain loudmouth finally make his debut? I am going to wager a bet and say yes. I won the bet! I know, isn't it the most pathetic yet homey looking thing you've ever seen? Well, we had to build our first houses with sticks. Keiichi, don't say stuff like that. The people in this area love coming here. That was my first impression of the Hinamizawa branch school. No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like a school at all. It even has a sign that says Hinamizawa Forestry Service.
まあ確かに我が校は営林署さんの敷地をお借りしておりますからの
Said the man they called the principal as he laughed heartily.
学び屋は違っても学校であることは同じです。
Hello, Curry Maniac.
前原くんがこれまで通われていた学校とはいろいろルールが違うと思いますが大丈夫ですか？
Is your voice different?
Hi.
I heard all the grades are put in the same classroom as this school. I didn't believe it, but I think it really is true. They're all younger than I am, so I guess it'll be like kindergarten. But it'll be interesting compared to my previous school, where everyone looked the same age.
前原くんが転校してきたら男子の中では最年長になると思います。
Well, aren't I special?
ですので自分の勉強だけでなく下級生たちの模範になるよう示さなければなりません。
Oh, if only you knew what kind of role model I will turn out to be. If only.
下級生は上級生の悪い癖をすぐに真似します。先生もそこは厳しく注意していますから、前原くんも下級生に悪い影響を与えないよう常に襟を正していてくださいね。
Well, as long as you're not as long as you're not asking Keiichi to teach these kids how to cook home-cooked meals, they'll all be okay.
わかりました。努力します。
Keiichi. What she means is that textbooks aren't the only thing you learn from. As a member of the class, and also as an older student, you have to be a good example. I know that already. After that, Chi-sensei brought us to an empty classroom and showed me where my desk would be. Since we're all still growing, I'm sure our sizes are very different. There are some desks that are way too small for me to even put my legs under, and also some that are just perfect for me. There are approximately 30 desks in here. But since all the different grades are in the same room, I'm sure it's very lively. There's also a wall full of calligraphy and art from different grades. It's all pretty exciting. Nothing like my previous school. It reminds me of the days when I truly enjoyed my school life.
父さん、俺気に入ったよ。やっぱり町の学校よりこっちの学校の方がいいや。
I think my son likes it here. Are you even paying attention to what he just said? I want him to go to this school too.
そうですか。沖宮の学校の方が設備もちゃんとしていますし、立派な先生方もたくさんおられますのに。
Even while saying that, Chi-sensei looked happy to hear that a new student would be transferring into her class. My father and the teachers went back to the teacher's office to get the transfer process going. In the meantime, I decided to stay in the classroom and look around. I didn't care about the move. I'd lost the will to live because of what I did. I didn't have any willpower, and I couldn't even get out of bed. So when my parents told me about the move, I thought that wouldn't change anything. But after the move, something did change. I wanted to restart my life. I want to restart my life and become someone I've always wanted to be. Here in Hinamizawa at this school, I can do that. I'm not going back to who I was. I'll never again think that good grades are the most important thing in this world. I have a feeling that I can learn the things that are really important in life here at this school. I never had the chance to learn them before now. It's almost embarrassing to put into words, but they're extremely valuable things, and if you don't learn them, you won't become a decent adult. The students at this school learned them a long time ago. To them, they're a given. Yet, I have to spend time learning about them even at this age. How to make friends. How to play with friends. To play. Things you can only learn from play. Things like socializing with others. Etc. Etc. It seems so easy, but it'll take me a while to learn them. I pushed those things aside and devoted myself to studying. I'm not trying to say studying isn't important, but you shouldn't become blinded by it. If someone says studying and good grades are the most important things in life, he's talking bullshit. So I can restart my life here at this school. Finally, I can become someone I've always wanted to be. I noticed two girls looking at me through the window. The schoolyard must be a playground for these children, because I saw a lot of them playing there earlier. I guess those two noticed me walking around the classroom and became curious. I guess that's natural. I'm a stranger to them. Should I say hello and let them know that I'm starting school next Monday?
ようやく引っ越してきたのです。
Hello again.
僕は待ち疲れたのですよ。はあ。
You're solid again.
でもこれでまた変わってくるのです。だって圭一はサイコロの6なのですから。6ではありますですが、圭一の振るサイコロは1がよく出上がりますです。
Ouch.
はあ、圭一が悪いわけではありませんのです。全部羽生が悪いのです。
Ouch.
お前のせいなのです。圭一に謝れなのです。
俺の名前を知ってるのか?
She said my name, didn't she? Did I hear her wrong? I never met her before.
ニパー、転校生なのですか?
ああ、よろしくな。前原圭一ってんだ。今度の月曜から来ることになると思うぜ。仲良くしてくれよな。は
あ、仲良くしましょうなのです。圭一に古出神社の巫女さんがありがたいお告げなのです。転校初日は教室の扉が鬼門なので入るときは注意なのです。あと椅子の背中に画鋲、机の中にはカエルのおもちゃまで入ってます。でも何度警告しても圭一は何度でも引っかかるのです。月曜日はかわいそうなのです。
だから面白いのだけれど、たまにはそんな運命も打ち破ってみて。あなたがそれを教えてくれるのよ。あまたの世界の一つでね。
は？
Poor Keiichi. I'll be reminded of the prophecy made by the two girls next Monday, because of the actions of a snaggletooth girl. I'll realize it too late, though. But I like it here. My name is Keiichi Maebara. This is my new beginning, and this time, I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest. I've been missing out on so much, but I'm going to learn all of those things here. I'm going to absorb all of it, and I'll become someone I've always wanted to become. It may take a very long time, but I'll definitely do it. This is like the third time you've said this. We get it. This is a new start for you. You don't need to hammer it in so much. God. Sorry, not hammer. Bat it in. That doesn't even make any grammatical sense. Whatever, you all know what I'm trying to say. I think. So, what's next? It must be somewhere on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try this. Takano-sen always comes along with me whenever I go take pictures on a stroll. She might have discovered the joy of cameras, and I'm happy to gain a friend who shares the same hobby. Oh, I'm sure she has. Imagines Takano giggling to herself as she takes pictures of specimens. However, there's actually something else she's much more interested in. The aforementioned specimens. That would be the history of Hinamizawa. She frequently visited libraries and local archives to read through various documents and books. And when it comes to Hinamizawa, she's gained quite extensive knowledge of the local history. When she's in a good mood, she tells me about things like how Hinamizawa used to be called Onikafuji Village, and how the villagers there used to perform various cruel ceremonies based around the worship of Oyashiro-sama. It seemed she loved tales of violence, and it actually gave her a mysterious charm. What is... Okay, I'm just gonna stop myself right here and continue. On the other hand, I don't do well with grotesque things, so I can hardly say anything in response. Then why do you find this quality about her charming? The stories of cruel ceremonies that she gets excited about. I don't really get them all that well. However, with the way her eyes light up when she talks, I don't mind spending time with her even when I have to hear about cruel things.
高野さんはそういうのを調べるのが好きだね。
The demonic light in your eyes that shines when you talk about them, it captivates me.
あら、だって楽しいわよ。封印された過去の暗黒史を紐解くなんて、とてもワクワクすることだとは思わない？
Takano-san smiled in a way that almost made it sound like a dark past is something fun. But of course, it isn't. The dark history of Hinamizawa that she loves is something cruel and atrocious, like the witch hunts in the Middle Ages.
それに、Hinamizawa症候群を調べる上でも、とても何も顕微鏡を除くことだけが調べることになるとは限らない。この寄生虫と長い時間を過ごしてきたこの村の伝承の方がよっぽど重要な何かを教えてくれることがあるんだから。
それもそうだね。うん。高野さんは本当に研究熱心だよな。
だって研究こそ私のライフワークだもの。 未知の神秘に踏み込み、誰も知らなかった秘密を暴くことってとっても楽しいことだとは思わない？知的好奇心をうずうずさせてくれる。
Have you ever considered reading H.P. Lovecraft?
それは多分考えることに悦を感じることができる人間だけに許された最高の娯楽だと思うの。この研究の第一人者だった高野先生もひなみ沢症候群の研究に生涯を捧げるだけの何かを見出し、多分私だけがそんな高野先生の気持ちを理解してると思うの。研究者でない二郎さんには難しいかしら。
She always seems so enthusiastic every time she talks about the late Dr. Takano, an independent researcher who was the first person to discover the existence of the syndrome. There has to be something more there than just her admiration as a researcher. Come to think of it, Dr. Takano's full name was Ifumi Takano. Takano-san's full name is Mio Takano. Not only are their last names pronounced the same, but their first names follow a similar pattern. They must be connected somehow. Gee, you think so? I don't know anything about Takano-san's personal history, but there is a good chance that her name is an alias. So it's very possible she chose a name to reflect a researcher she admires.
なるほど。ひょっとして高野さんはだからミオという名前なのかね？いや、高野さんが尊敬しているその先生の名前が確か高野一二三。そして高野さんの名前がミオ。123の後を引き継いで34。彼が成し遂げられなかった研究を引き継いだからそういう名前なのかなって思ってね。
それを誰かに聞いたの？
いや今僕が適当に考えただけなんだよ。別に誰かが言ってたわけじゃ。
正解よ。鈍い二郎さんにしてはよくわかったわね。
Ouch. Although, let's be honest, she's not exactly wrong about your character, is she?
いや、高野さんがその高野先生をとても尊敬しているのは知ってたし、まるで自分が実の娘か孫で研究の正当な後継者だというような感じで言っていることがあったからね。なんとなくそんな気がしただけなんだよ。作家のペンネームだってほら、尊敬する作家のオマージュで名前を付けることもあるし、なら高野美代って名前もペンネームみたいなものなのかなって思って。
そんなことはないわよ。高野美代は本名よ。もっとも高野の高は鳥の高じゃなくて高い低いの高が正しいけれど。
え？じゃあ高野先生とは本当は同じ名字なのかね？そりゃますますびっくりだね。しかも美代が本名とは。高野一二三の研究を高野美代が継ぐ。
二郎さんたら運命的だなんて大げさな。別に運命でも何でもないのよ。
え？
This is news to me. I heard Takano-san discovered documents about the Hinamizawa syndrome left by Dr. Takano after his death and decided to continue his research. I never heard of them being related before.
祖父の研究を引き継ぐために予算をというと、まるで身内びいきのために予算を引っ張ろうとしているように見えて印象が良くないというふうに助言をしてくれる人がいたので、高の一文字を変えたからなの。だから人前で高野先生が私の祖父だと話したのは小泉。
そうだったのかい。なるほどね。君がひなみ沢症候群の研究に入江所長も驚くほどの情熱を見せる理由がちょっとだけ分かったよ。
I understand very clearly now. She really did inherit the work her grandfather was unable to complete.
祖父も医学的見地からだけでなく古文書などの文献からもひなみ沢症候群を探っていたの。 ひなみ沢症候群と何百年にもわたって共にあった村の文献を調べることは、何百倍もの倍率を持つ顕微鏡を除くより価値があり得るというのは、祖父が私に教えてくれたことなの。
なるほどね。だとしたら自分の完成できなかった研究をこれだけ立派に引き継いでくれたおじいさんはきっと喜んでいるだろうね。こんなに熱心な孫に。
そうだといいわね。
I said something Takano-san would normally tease me about, but she didn't. She nodded and smiled. There's no mistake. She is indeed the granddaughter of Dr. Takano.
祖父がひふみで1、2、3。私はミオで3、4。私は祖父を継ぎ、ようやく3を共に数えたに過ぎない。そして祖父の次の4を数え、私も祖父もまだ見ぬ5へ至らなければならない。
それでミオという名前なんだね。素敵な名前だと思うよ。
ありがとう。私が孫だという話を内緒にしてほしいの。クライアントの人たちにも言っていないから。
うん、分かったよ。これは僕と高野さんの秘密ということで。
Although it's only a small secret, it feels good to think I'm the only one who knows about it.
私はようやく3を数えただけ。まだ4にすら至っていない。研究の道のりはまだまだ険しく長いけれど、
僕もそれを応援するよ。もともとそれが僕の役割だしね。
もうそういう余計なことを言わなければ十分かっこいいのに。一言応援するって言ってくれればいいのよ。
するよ。君を応援する。
二度言い直してもダメね。一回で言えなくちゃかっこよくはならないわね。
Poor Tomitaki. He's destined to be uncool. We laughed cheerfully together. And after we finished laughing, she became serious again and spoke as if to drive the point home.
だから二郎さん、くれぐれも私が孫だって言わないようにね。
言わないよ。約束する。
孫だからいけないということはないけれど、クライアントがそれを知って不快に思ったら予算を切られるようなことがあるかもしれない。
そんなことはないと思うよ。第一、僕は喋らないしね。
絶対よ。本当の本当に絶対よ。私はこの研究のために命をもらったの。祖父の研究を完成させることだけが私の使命。踏みにじられた研究が世界を驚かす偉大なものであったことを証明し、土の下で朽ちる祖父をたたえさせ、神に昇華させること。それだけが私の生きる理由であり目的なの。もしそれを邪魔するような不用意な言葉をあなたがうっかり漏らして研究に支障が出たならば。
大丈夫だよ。ここで聞いた話は忘れるよ。本当さ。いや、絶対に口外しない。僕は約束は守るよ。絶対に言わない。
絶対よ、二郎さん。
I sensed something frightening within her for a moment. Afraid that she would end up possessed by it, I swore to keep the promise. Her intellectual curiosity as a researcher and her conviction to complete her grandfather's work are what stirs her passion for researching Hinamizawa syndrome. I think there's one more reason, but it's far too deep, and it's within a wound in her heart that someone like me should never touch. But earlier, She said, "If you create problems for my research." I wonder what she wanted to say after that. I can't help thinking she wanted to say something terrifyingly merciless. I kept my promise with her, and we never talked about the issue again after that. Shame how you wound up dead anyway, despite likely keeping this. Oh, come on. So, the game crashed right as that fragment finished, so had to replay all the way up to this point again. First crash that I've come across for this thing. I mean, I knew that I knew I was going to run into problems eventually, because I mean, technically this modded version of Chapter 8 is still unfinished and is still a WIP. But even so, what a rotten spot here to for that bug to appear. Anywho, enough about that. Let's continue on. Okay, I think this is what I was missing. The promise that I just saw in that fragment. So let's try a roll of 1. It happened so suddenly. Uncle Koizumi passed away. I never heard he was ill or wasn't feeling well. His chest started to hurt suddenly, and he couldn't sleep. He called an ambulance for the first time in his life because he didn't think he could endure the pain. He was taken into emergency care, but he didn't live to see morning. It was an acute myocardial infarction. But maybe it was the best possible way to go. Instead of being in bed for many years slowly dilapidating and withering away, he was healthy until his death. So I think he must have lived a wonderful life. But still, it was too sudden. I wish I'd called him Uncle more. It's too late, though. Uncle Koizumi would never smile at me again with his wrinkly old face, no matter how many times I called for him. He was my guardian until now. He always looked after me, making sure my efforts received proper recognition. Maybe he only did that because he couldn't help my grandfather when he was alive. But still, he was an important person to me. He wasn't just my political backing. But I didn't realize that when he was alive. I only thought of using his power for my own agenda. But after he died, I realized Uncle Koizumi was my grandpa too. He provided the warmth and protection that I longed for from my own grandfather. At his funeral, I shed tears that I thought I forgot how to.
おじいちゃん、今までありがとう。もっとおじいちゃんって呼んであげればよかったね。
No matter how many times I called to him, he would never reply. What I can do for him at this point is complete my research. I must accomplish my goal for his sake. When my grandfather's research is finally acknowledged, Uncle Koizumi's name will be known once again for being the sole supporter of his endeavor. I believe that's the best way to repay him for everything he has done. I vow to devote myself to my work even more from this day on. But, unfortunately, hardships and sadness tend to come together. It was like the tailwind that blew steadily until today. suddenly became a headwind. The wind shifted far too suddenly. So strong, so cold, so sad.
どういうことなの、二郎さん。
小泉先生が入江機関設立の立役者だったのは高野さんも知ってるよね。関係機関でなかなか承認の取れなかったのを小泉先生が強力に抑え込んで無理やり通させたって話なんだよ。何しろ医薬品業界で絶大な功績を挙げられた戦後日本復興の重鎮だからね。政財界に絶大な影響力を持たれていたし。
その小泉先生が亡くなって小泉先生が通した無理やりが通らなくなったということ。
あくまでも噂なんで本当のところは僕にもわからないんだけど、一部の予算配当やプロジェクトの見直しが行われるらしいというのを聞いたんだよ。
入江機関が廃止されるということ？
いや、入江機関を見直すというのは聞いたことないけど、ただ小泉先生の死後、長老たちの派閥や勢力、後継者争いがややこしくなっているってもっぱらの噂なんだ。すでにクライアントの人事にかなりの影響を与え始めてるらしいんだ。それで小泉派が主導していたプロジェクトや聖域予算に対し締め付けが行われるんじゃないかって憶測が飛び交ってるらしいんだよ。もちろんそれらは全て僕にとって雲の上の話だからね。伝え聞いた噂話でしかないんだけれど。
Jiro-san kept saying they were rumors, but that told me the wind's direction has changed. Or maybe Jiro-san already knows everything and is simply trying to warn me about it. And then, at our next routine audit, Jiro-san made it clear of his own mouth. High-ranking government officials who had never came here before attended the routine audit along with Jiro-san. Just by seeing those faces, I can tell the turning point is approaching.
ご存知の通り、アルファベットプロジェクトは戦後日本の国際的な地位向上を目的としたものです。ですが、すでに昭和も50年代に至り、西暦は21世紀を間近にしております。
In this day and age, we must put the past behind us and start looking forward to a new world. He meant exactly what he said. Japan has already put the past behind, and it's cutting off its ties to the ghosts that wish to resurrect the militaristic might of the pre-war era.
戦後40年間、我が国は世界への平和的貢献を模索し、国際的地位を確立するに至りました。日本は国際社会において重要なポジションを担う国家として成熟し、来世紀にはますますにその存在感を強めることでしょう。
The Alphabet Project, the main sponsor of the Irie Institute, are a group of people who want to develop a weapon that would act as a deterrent to the nuclear weapons which Japan is forbidden to own. So they've come to the Irie Institute, one of its branch organizations, to tell us Japan has now renounced nuclear arms. So the Irie Institute will be facing a strong, cold headwind from now on. The roll of the die that came up with one on that stormy day has reappeared. I won't let the result of a die affect me. The power of my will won't be beaten by some god's roll of the dice.
よって現在時代に即した形になるようアルファベットプロジェクトの見直しを進めています。新生アルファベットプロジェクトは国際交流と経済発展の二軸からなる平和外交の見地から日本の地位向上を模索していくことになるでしょう。
All the people who held tremendous influence in the politics and economy of Japan were born before the war, so naturally they want to regain the glory of pre-war Japan. The very idea that we can win next time if we research the new bomb that defeated us is itself a specter of the war. No, Everyone already realized that. It was just that no one could speak out against the grandstanding elders they owed their gratitude towards. Soon, the old will wither away, and the new generation will take control. Uncle Koizumi was, in a way, the last remaining pillar for the old generation. His death is a chance for the new generation to step in. The things they couldn't argue openly are now being discussed. They pointed out that from the beginning, the Alphabet Project was created for the personal satisfaction of a small group of people, and it sucked money out of the treasury. And so, the new generation of politicians have taken over from the old.
よってアルファベットに関わるすべてのプロジェクトで今後大幅な予算の見直しが図られていくことになります。これはもちろん入江機関も例外ではありません。どうかご了解をいただけますようよろしくお願いいたします。
You know, I can't help but wonder. Given Takano's attitude throughout the entire story up till this point, and the massive change of it by the time that the GHD Operation Doomsday rolls around, and given what I'm seeing here, was Operation Doomsday in a sense an act of desperation on Takano's part in order to get the world to acknowledge the merits of Hifumi's research?
わかりました。私たちもスポンサーあっての研究です。どうかよろしくお願いいたします。
Irie responded appropriately, but he's obviously bewildered. The best equipment and staff are being provided to the Irie Institute. In other words, our research requires a huge amount of money. For those with no interest in Hinamizawa syndrome, they probably won't be able to understand why that much money is being put into the research of disgusting parasites. If they're simply going to revise our budget, that would be fine. We were receiving more than enough money. That would naturally be adjusted. It hurts, but we can endure. That's what I thought. But if just enduring it was enough, it wouldn't be a 1 on the die. So, even in that sense, this is definitely a roll of a die coming up as 1.
でありまして、この4月に新体制の理事会が発足し、全プロジェクトに対する新方針が示されました。これにつきましてはお配りします資料をご覧ください。
His papers were then passed around. He started to go over the details, but I read through quickly so I could learn about their stupid decisions first.
入江機関はこれまで先進的な研究において数々の目覚ましい成果を上げられ、未知であったひなみざわ症候群の全貌解明、そして治療薬の開発を成し遂げました。理事会でもこの成果は大変に高く評価しています。これもすべて入江所長以下入江機関全職員のたゆみない努力によるものと思っております。
いえ、恐縮です。
Even while he received their congratulations, a tense atmosphere surrounded me and Irie. It's customary to start the conversation in the opposite way you're planning to take it, before delving into your main point to convey. If the main issue is something good, then start with something bad. Or vice versa.
入江機関の研究目的は2つありました。ひなみざわ症候群の研究と治療法の確立、そして多面運用の模索です。新生理事会はこの後者の多面運用の模索については即時の中止を決定しました。これらの研究開発が国内で行われていた事実と痕跡は今後はむしろアキレス腱になりかねません。入江機関は直ちにこれに関わる全ての研究を中止し一切を破棄してください。
わかりました。ご指示に従います。
Irie replied with that immediately. Irie was assertive about finding a cure, but was never even remotely interested in researching the disease's use for military purposes. so I'm sure he has no qualms about concurring with such demands. But I don't agree, because our research will be more limited if we're just trying to find a cure. To me, finding that cure is simply a byproduct of my larger goal of discovering everything about the syndrome.
また、入江期間につきましては、最長3年以内をめどに研究の収束を図ってまいります。予算もそれに合わせ段階的に縮小する方針です。
ちょっと待ってください。近年ようやくひなみ沢症候群の全貌が分かり、今まさに治療法の研究を進めているところです。確かに研究は日々進んでおりますが、3年という短い期間で確実に完成させられることをお約束はできません。
理事会では入江機関はすでに治療薬について十分な研究を完成させているという認識です。すでに。
いえ、完成なんてとんでもない。まだまだ試薬の域を出ず、村人全員を治療できる目処は全く立っていません。このような段階で研究終了ありきでの議論は全くもって無謀としか言いようがありません。
I'm surprised that Yuri objected. Thanks to him, I didn't have to say anything. But if Irie hadn't objected, I'm sure I would have shrieked in protest.
それでは、入江機関には現時点では感染者全員を治療し、ひなみ沢症候群を撲滅することは不可能だということですね。
そうです。もちろん村人全員の治療とひなみ沢症候群の撲滅は将来的には不可能なことではありませんし、私もそれを最大の目標にしています。ただそれには十分な時間が必要で、そのためには無論予算も必要です。私たちは調べ、実践し、確立する仕事をしています。設計図に従ってものを作り、期間があれば必ず決まった成果が出せる仕事とは事情が違います。どうかそこを誤解なさらないようにしていただきたいです。
I guess Irie speaks out when he needs to. And what he's saying is absolutely right. Research isn't something guaranteed to produce results with money and time. But I disagree with some of the things he said. He's objecting about the time and the money, but he's basically agreeing to limit our research only towards finding a cure for Hinamizawa syndrome. That won't do. We won't unravel any mysteries that way. At that rate, the discovery of the Hinamizawa syndrome will be recognized as my grandfather's great achievement.
なるほど。入江所長のおっしゃることもごもっともと思います。私どもにとっての最大の目的は、軍事目的の研究が行われていたことの完全な破棄です。よって、ひなみ沢症候群という特殊現象が研究されていた痕跡と、そもそも存在していた事実についても隠蔽すべきであると考えます。最終的にひなみ沢症候群が世間に知られることなく撲滅されるならば、そのための期間と予算は必要不可欠なものでしょう。それについては今後協議を重ねていくということでよろしいでしょうか。
はい、依存ありません。では
入江機関はできるだけ早急にひなみ沢症候群撲滅を秘密裏に行えるプランと予算案を作成提出してください。
わかりました。早急に提出いたします。
誤解ないようにしていただきたいのは、私どもはあくまでも研究を直ちに中断させようというのではなく、円満な形で研究を終了させようということです。この違いをご理解ください。
ええ、もちろん理解しております。
While I was listening to their conversation, I was struck dumbfounded with something they said. Dumbfounded, yeah. Eradicating the syndrome in secrecy. In other words, it would be as though Hinamizawa syndrome never existed. So my grandfather's name will never be revered by anyone. The sound of rustling papers and hushed proceedings filled the meeting room, but I only heard the ticking clock as I clutched my sweating palms. So it all must be done in secrecy. And for obvious reasons, Takano here is not okay with that at all. Again, I'm starting to think that I'm really starting to consider the idea that Operation Doomsday may, in a sense, as twisted as it may be, an act of desperation on her part in order to get Fumi's research recognized by the public at large. Just a theory, though, but given everything I know, I can't come to any other conclusion. And what else can I find? Well, I can do both of these. Let's do Deja Vu.
やあ、中川君。ずいぶんの久方ぶりになるね。先はやってるのかい？あれ。
いえいえ、もうさっぱりです。年は取りたくないもんですな。
クレイやるときは集中してやらないとダメだよ。あんまり間を空けすぎると勘が鈍っちゃって意味ない。
先生、ご紹介します。高野さんさです。
はじめまして。本日はお忙しい中、お時間をお割きくださいましてありがとうございます。
ああ、別に君のために時間を割いたわけじゃない。うまい生ウニが食わせてもらえるって話でね。ウニはいいんだよ君。ビタミン A が豊富でね、お肌に特にいいんだとか。女性は大好きでしょ、ウニ。
It is true that sea urchins are rich in vitamin A, but compared to spinach, it's not anything that's worth making a fuss about. Well, none of that matters right now. Note to self, spinach is good for your skin. He just seemed like an unpleasant man, so I wanted to criticize him. These men are the directors of the Alphabet Project who control the funding for the Irie Institute. They are also people who are in a position of being able to offer their opinions to those directors. To put it in a simpler way, they are the new owners of the Irie Institute. Although not as much as Uncle Koizumi was, they are also leaders and influencers in various fields. I had to be very careful not to upset them. And therefore, there's no way I would have had the ability to call them in. By using the influence that the Koizumi faction once had, I finally managed to get this chance. Uncle Koizumi, who gave me his full support and made everything go my way, is not here anymore. I'm on my own from this point on, and I will open up a path. But this stage just doesn't belong to me today. I can't let the people who offered me this chance lose face, so I have to wait patiently until it's my turn. My primary objective today is to explain what a prominent research subject to the Hinazawa syndrome is, and acquire an indefinite extension for our research. They only ever think about money, so they aren't even realizing the hidden potential of Hinazawa syndrome. They don't recognize that it's worth spending a lot of money on. Well, if Hifumi's research is indeed accurate on a few things, then maybe it'd be correct to say that these men are infected by parasites that are obsessed with money. Maybe the parasites are $ shaped. This is not mere research on the existence of an unknown parasite, but something that may overthrow the basic foundations of anthropology. A Nobel Prize wouldn't even be enough. It won't be easy trying to explain all that to men who know nothing about any of it, but I have to. That's why I spent many hours making these straightforward support documents. Oh, let me guess. Deja Vu is in reference to... You're about to basically have your papers trampled on like Ifumi's, aren't you? That's what Deja Vu is in reference to. And it's going to make you very angry. Sometimes we make documents confusing on purpose because we don't like dealing with uneducated people. But this time, it's different. I can't look down at them. I must sincerely try to make them understand. The accessible support documents are there in a huge pile. It feels like we're wasting time eating traditional Japanese food in such a relaxed mood. I want to get to the point and explain to them in detail so they can understand. But there is the saying, luck lies in the last helping. I have to be patient right now.
正直ね、これまでのアルファベットはあまり良くないと思うのです。結局こいつは未だ頭の中が時代遅れの年寄りどものね、
年寄りどもが自分のじゃない金で過去の栄光を取り戻す夢を描くお砂場です。そんな年寄りどもの妄想のために一体どれだけの公金が垂れ流されたやら。聞いた話じゃ、奥野先生あたりが検察をつっついて旧理事会を横領で追わせてるらしいですな。
年寄りたちをよいしょしてうまい汁を吸っていた連中の末路ですな。もっとも表沙汰にはできんでしょうから、別件で隕石左遷といった形になるんでしょうが、いやはやこれも戦前の亡霊をずっと野放しにしていた日本のツケですな。いやー、この野球にのしぬもたまらない。
これは手厳しい。そんな中で先生にこんなお願いをするのは非常になんですが、一つお時間を頂戴できればと思いまして。
入江機関さんでしたっけ。確か長野だか岐阜の方で風土病の研究をされてるんでしたな。どういうことになってましたっけ。
理事会の決定で軍事転用研究が中止に。あと研究そのものも3年以内に段階的終了に決定しています。ああ、いえ、これは継続協議中でした。まあそのいずれにしましても数年以内に閉鎖になる予定です。
思い出した。入江機関さんは旧理事会でも評判が悪かったみたいですな。何しろ莫大な予算をほとんど無審査で吸い取ってましたからね。
某大先生がどういうわけかこのプロジェクトをやたら後押しされてたみたいでしてね。その絡みもあって結局誰も文句が言えずに放置されてきたってのが実際のようです。
まあでもな、もう大先生は女癖が悪かったからそれもあったのかもしれませんな。
Is he implying that I slept with Uncle Koizumi? He's insulting both of us. But I held my anger in. I can't let myself be barred by something like this.
それで本日は当機関の研究内容について説明させていただき、当機関に対する理事会の決定についてどうかご再考をお願いしたいと思いましてお時間を頂戴させていただきました。本日はこのような場へご多忙な中お越しいただきましたことを深く御礼申し上げます。
ま、ただでウニが出てくるわけはないってことですな。
I explained to them how much the Hinamizawa syndrome mattered while being very careful not to go too fast. I tried to let them know that the syndrome's potential is not limited to small things like military applications, but is much more meaningful than that. It may explain ideology and religion. It may even shake the very definition of a human being. I took my time to explain as slowly and clearly as possible. I'm not confident that all of it had gone through to those boorish men, but I'm happy if they understood even just a part of it. As long as they understand how much of a magnificent discovery Hinamizawa syndrome really is.
ありがとうサンサ。なるほど。
ちょっと検討したいので、サンサには一度下がってもらってよろしいですかな。
I guess they don't want you present for the vicious tongue lashing your research is about to receive.
それでは失礼させていただきます。
At least unlike Hifumi's audience, they're at least offering you this one small courtesy. So, yay. Obviously, they can't discuss in front of me. I left all the documents with them. All I could do now was hope they viewed them favorably. I left the room and closed the sliding door. The room next door is a preparation room, so I was to head there. But I stopped. I shouldn't have done it, but I tried to listen in through the sliding door.
こりゃなんと言いますか。全理事の皆さんも気の毒としか言いようがありませんな。
いや小泉先生がですね、非常に強く押されていまして。
小泉先生にはローベル製薬日本法人の初代顧問に就任された時に一度お会いし、とても聡明な方だなという印象を強く持っていたのですが、
人間年には勝てないということですな。何事も引き際が肝心だと思い知らされますよ。ただですね、ひなみ沢症候群という非常に珍しい病気があるのは事実でございまして、決して全てが全て妄想というわけではありませんでして。
入江機関はすでに病気の解明と治療薬の開発に成功しているというじゃありませんか。それで十分ですよ。
現代日本にとって周辺諸国を過敏にさせる件については厳に慎むべきです。中でも軍事分野は最も敏感と言えるでしょう。少なくとも数年間にわたり軍事目的の研究がされていた事実は直ちに抹消しなくてはなりません。それは軍事研究の中止とは別に。そうです。ひなみ沢症候群は生物兵器開発のための研究という事実は直ちに研究を中止したとしても残ります。ひなみ沢症候群を目的は何であれ、研究した事実は厳重に隠蔽されなければなりません。できればひなみ沢症候群そのものがなくなってしまうのが好ましい。
Oh, fuck me, you stupid fool. You just said the absolute worst possible thing that Miss Takano here could possibly hear.
ですな。病気が残ればやがては関心を持つ者が現れ、せっかく埋めた穴をわざわざ掘り返す輩が現れないとも限りません。理事会の決定通り、入江機関は病気を撲滅させ次第、研究の痕跡を全て消した上で解散させるのがいいでしょ
う。やはりそういう結論に行き着きますな。ノーベル賞が取れるかどうかが問題ではなく、戦後日本にとって無用な研究だということです。そもそも大昔から存在し、特に異常もなくやってこれたわけでしょ。やぶをつっつく研究なのではと当初から思っていました。
同感ですな。ひなみ沢症候群という病気の存在自体は疑わないが、この高野という第一発見者は少々この病気を脚色しすぎですな。私も資料を読みながらユニークな発想をする人だなぁと思っておりました。第一、寄生虫で人の思想が染まるなんて聞いたことがない。そりゃいくらなんでもひどすぎる。
If we try to explain religions with this, then Buddha, Christ, all those people would be... What was it again? Queen carriers? If we tried exposing something like this, we'd be attacked by every nation on the planet. Religion is pretty scary nowadays.
動物の脳に寄生する寄生虫がいるなら、
たまには人間の脳に寄生する寄生虫がいてもいいとは思う。しかしその寄生虫が思想や人格までもコントロールする可能性なんてのはさすがにこれはちょっとユニークすぎます。
As I peeked in through the gap in the sliding door, I became trapped within an unbelievable sense of deja vu. This is my first time experiencing this, but it doesn't feel that way. I don't know why, but the memory is so sad and so painful. Huh? Huh? Why? Tears. Before I realized it, I saw a very nostalgic carpeted room on the other side of the sliding door, instead of a room covered in tanami mats. The room is filled with the smell of dust, mixed with the smell of some evaporated medicine, but it's very soothing to me just the same. And there is my grandfather. His article that he had poured his heart into was made a mockery of, yet he wasn't even allowed to cry. This isn't a delusion, because within the documents I left with those men, there are a lot of references to the article my grandfather wrote. So I'm not surprised for my grandfather to be standing right there, explaining it to them himself. Together with the tears from seeing the sight of my beloved grandfather, I watched these men insult and belittle his masterpiece. I've seen this sight before, and the sight should have ended there. But why is it repeating before my eyes? I can only blankly peek through the sliding door at this strange world where reality and illusion overlap.
あのサンサもちょいとおかしいし、こんな世まいごとを信じた小泉先生もおかしいが、やはりこの第一発見者の論文が一番おかしいですな。
期待と妄想が入り混じっていて、これは論文というより創作の次元ですな。というか、これはこのままどこかの出版社に持ち込んで本にした方がウケると思いますよ。
確かに確かに。私の友人に出版社の社長をやってるのがいてね。きっと面白がって読んでくれると思いますよ。
This may all be funny to you, but I think you assholes are going to be indirectly responsible for getting an entire village genocided off the face of the earth. I hope you'll eventually come to realize this in the various other worlds where it actually happens. Who am I kidding? You probably won't.
笑い事ではありませんぞ、皆様方。このとんでもない研究がまかり通って、巨額の予算が数年間にもわたって投じられていたのですからな。特にひどいのは、万一の場合に備えて相当危険な機材を用意しているという点です。これは絶対に国民に知られてはならないことです。
計画が存在しただけでも恐ろしいのに、終末作戦なんて緊急措置の存在を知られてしまったら、国外は愚か、しかもその機材の維持費がすごいことになってるじゃないか。
そんなの本当に維持費にしてるわけないじゃないですか。そういう名目にしてトンネルしてる架空プロジェクトでしょ、どうせ。
大体なんで少女が一人死ぬだけで村人が一斉に異常行動を起こす病気なんて、あなたどこの漫画の話ですか。
まったくこんな子供騙しを鵜呑みにして巨額の予算を垂れ流すとはつくづくいかんと思いますな。こんな資料を真に受ける連中がいるというんだから、実にバカバカしいことです。
As he said that, he placed the documents down with an exaggerated gesture. Actually, I should say he slammed them down, because the papers end up scattered all over the floor.
ですよな。あ、ちょいと失礼。お手洗いに。
One of the men stood up and stepped on the papers. And they weren't the papers on the tatami mats, but the ones on the carpet. Right there, I can see my grandfather filled with heart-rending sadness. Yet, he can't let it show on his face. Grandfather's expression didn't change. Yet it seemed distorted to me. I could see the walls of my grandfather's study crumpling and twisting behind him. I jumped into the room. Oh, here we go. I grabbed onto the man's legs. I don't hate him. Oh, okay, it's just a flashback. No, it's not whether I hate him or not. Sure, I hate him, but that's not it. I just can't forgive the feet stepping on my grandfather's article.
踏まないで踏まないでおじいちゃんが頑張って書いたんだから足で踏んだりしないで
Scratch that. I guess this is happening in reality. Those feet are still stepping on the papers. I tried to make them move, but they won't even budge, as though they've grown roots. So I begged as I grabbed onto his legs. I tried to pull the papers from under his feet, but I can't move his feet. I can't pull out the papers.
踏まないで踏まないでおじいちゃんの踏まないで
My sobbing echoed in that silent room, just like it did back then. Bureaucracy is a real bitch, isn't it? I think that's probably the biggest lesson I can take from what I just saw right there. And apparently it's a bitch no matter which generation of people is running it. Because I guess bureaucracy just attracts all kinds of bitches. What a bitch. And I mean that in every sense of the phrase. Okay, you know what? I think I've let this go on long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and end things here. If Operation Doomsday doesn't turn out to be an act of desperation on Takano's part to get Hifumi's research recognized by the world at large, I will be very freaking surprised. Because again, given what I've just learned in this episode and analyzing her behavior all the way up to the present day in the story, I can't think of any other reason why she would just go from just being merely apathetic about using anybody in the village here to get results from her research to straight up murdering all of them for the sake of it. This is the only theory I have here that really makes sense to me. That would explain this massive jump from just apathetic research to straight up genocide. And I mean, if I'm right, then, well, congratulations me. I now understand the motive behind Operation Doomsday, but still don't condone it, because genocide is still genocide. No matter what reason you could give to justify it. It just ain't cool. At any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Higurashi wa Kai Chapter 8. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.